Okay, welcome to our video lecture series for system dynamics and vibrations. We're going to go ahead and get started here in chapter 3 of the textbook, which is on the introduction to differential equations. So in this class, we will be focusing on the application of differential equations to engineering, to design, and so we will be digging into the math for the solutions to differential equations and our ability to analyze them. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about how to understand a differential equation just by looking at it. And so that brings us to section 3.3, which is classification of differential equations of ordinary differential equations. And so there are going to be several ways that we classify differential equations, and classification is going to help us know how to solve the equation that we're looking at. Some of these different ways to classify or categorize or sort differential equations are going to apply to different methods of solutions and analysis. First, we're going to talk about variables. So this may or may not be review, but we have independent variables. And an independent variable is a variable that varies independently. It does not depend on any other um, any other outside parameter. So it varies independently. And a good example might be time. So time continues forward. It doesn't care for most intents and purposes where we are or how fast we're going until you get into some special cases. Time is going to continue forward at the same speed that it's always been continuing forward. You also have dependent variables, which do dependent spelling, uh, do depend on the independent variable. So the value of a dependent variable depends on the independent variable. And we have lots of examples of this. This is most of the things that we usually care about. So often position is a dependent variable, or velocity, or both of them together. And these are things that are changing. Usually we say that they are changing in time. That's what makes a system dynamic, is that the position or velocity of something changes with respect to time. The book also mentions a specified variable. Specified variable is a variable that may look like a dependent variable, but it's specified by the parameters of your problem. So the example given by the book is something like x equals sine of t. Um, so if this x, or if this position shows up in a larger equation, but we know ahead of time that it always equals sine of t, um, then it's what's called a specified variable. It's not actually um, independent, and this is if it comes in the context of a larger equation. We also have constants or parameters, and these are variables that might show up as letters um, in our math, but they don't change. So the value doesn't change with respect to any variable. Okay. So with this understanding of these variables, we can go ahead and start classifying equations. So there are a couple different um, types of classification that we'll be using. So the first one is differential versus algebraic. So an equation is either a differential equation or it is an algebraic equation. And an equation is differentiable, not differentiable, differential if any derivatives are involved in the equation. Involved. For example, we have the equation dy dt equals 7. That's an equation, and because we have the derivative right there, this equation is differential. Um, any equation that does not involve a derivative, we're going to call an algebraic equation. So the example is 3y equals 7 is algebraic. There are no derivatives in here. Um, a more complicated example that the book gives of a algebraic equation, if you have something like 7y to the fourth power plus the cosine of t times the sine of y, and you cube the sine equals tangent of t plus 99. We have independent variables, we have dependent variables, but we do not have any derivatives in this equation. So this is a algebraic equation. Well, in the interest of keeping these videos short, we will go ahead and wrap this one up. Go ahead and take a break. And in the next video, we will discuss the other classifications. I believe there are 5 more classifications that we're going to be talking about.